Okay, we're back. We're back. Oh my God, Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Personal jinx.
Are people still doing that? Wait, what's a personal jinx?
This was like...
No, you got to tell me now. I never learned this part of the jinx code. Personal jinx.
I think the last time I did a personal jinx was in 5th grade.
Oh, is this where I only can't talk around you?
Yes.
Okay. And is this in the Mishnah?
And scene.
Where in the Torah is the personal jinx rules?
Yes.
There's probably a whole section.
Yes.
You know what? I actually was thinking about this last night, and this isn't the topic we were going to talk about today, but I am a little curious. Maybe this will be an interesting springboard for something. It seems that there's quite a bit of like literalness in interpreting the Torah. Like it feels as though it's very, like the way that the Torah is interpreted feels very literal. I mean, that's just how, that's exactly the word. You know, like for example, the milk and meat rule, right? Boiling a goat in its mother's milk. Is that correct? And someone was like, you know what that means? Well, and someone interpreted it, but it's pretty literal, and it seems like, you know, there's all these brilliant minds thinking about the Torah. Where does the kind of the more allegorical side of things, where does that sit?
This is wow, you just caught me off guard.
Yes.
Rabbi Greg.
That's right.
This was not our topic today.
Well, you know.
This could be a 45-minute conversation, and I think it deserves a time to everything, turn. Yes. There is a season, turn.
Okay.
And a time to every purpose, unto heaven.
We're going to start every episode with me asking you a question you were not ready for.
Yeah, listen, I could give it to you, but then we would just go completely off, and I think we should come back.
Okay, we'll come back. This episode is about something really fun. It's about pain. Pain.
Why are we talking about pain?
Well, Rabbi, it's a great question.
Why are we talking about pain?
Well, it's kind of a universal thing.
What do you mean?
I would say, I don't know. I mean, I think pain is experienced by everyone. It can be good. It can be bad, although I think generally people think it's bad. But I think that there might be good to it too, because I think without pain, then you have nothing to compare like pleasure and joy to.
Okay.
Right?
This is great. Here we go.
Did I give you another thing that's going to take another 45 minutes to uncover?
I think it's good because...
Isn't that so, Rabbi? That's such a thing. Like, I say one thing and you're like, oh, man, what you're about to get into is another 45-minute conversation.
That's what rabbis are all for. It's like, you know, we're about to go into a 45-minute podcast right now.
Right.
So let's start there.
Okay.
What do we know about secular society? What do we hear, like, things in secular society? We hear no pain, no gain.
Right. I mean, I think no pain, no gain is I don't know if it's necessarily about pain. I think it's more about discomfort.
Okay.
But I also think discomfort is frequently linked to pain, which I don't think is the same thing.
Okay, good. What you're setting me up. Bump set spike. And
we need someone to like jot
So I'm
notes.
gonna ask the question, and this is a typical
Man,
thing
I was
that
ready.
we're ready. So I'm gonna ask you, Greg.
Yeah.
And if you get this wrong, I won't hold it against you. But I'm gonna ask you, what's the opposite of pain?
No pain.
I think we've done this before. You got the answer right.
Oh, that's correct?
That's correct. Because what will most people say when I ask them what's the opposite of pain? What's the typical response?
Probably pleasure or joy or something like happiness or something like that.
Correct. But you answered correctly.
Well, that's because emotion isn't any given. Well, I don't know if pain is an emotion. It's not. Feeling isn't a spectrum with one feeling on this side and another feeling on the other side. I think that feelings are the degree to which that feeling exists. That's why I said no pain.
Excellent.
Because it seems as though it's like you could have pain and still be happy.
Perfect. So what do we know?
Okay, I think that's the episode. Thank you guys so much.
Excellent.
I appreciate it.
We did not plan this.
No,
this is a complete conversation, but I think there's more to expound upon this.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Is that there's a Jewish concept that if I were to ask you another question, and I think then we'll get back to the whole pain question, but I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm on fire.
You're on fire.
I'm ready.
If I were to ask you, Greg, what does the definition of bad mean?
The definition of bad.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I was thinking about this on my way here today, actually. We are connected.
What is the definition of bad?
Bad. It's subjective, so it's hard to say. I mean, not good. The opposite of, I guess you can't measure bad off of good because then it puts them on two different spectrums.
When I ask you, how did you feel after getting, not you, but how would you feel after after getting a speeding ticket? How would you feel?
Bad. Yeah, bad, right? But it's the consequences I'm feeling. I'm not feeling bad because I'm not feeling bad because I went fast. I don't really care about that because I didn't, in my mind, I'm like, well, I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't hurt myself. I didn't cause anyone any problems. The only reason I feel bad is because now I have to pay $250 or whatever.
Correct.
So the bad is just from experiencing consequences.
I'm going to ask you another question. Is there an objective bad in the world?
Interesting question. I would say...
Now, I'm not saying evil. I'm not saying wicked.
Yeah.
I'm saying, is there an objective bad? And this might...
There's a couple movies that come to mind that are just objectively, universally bad.
Okay. So this definition of bad, what is bad then? In relationship to my reality.
I think when I think about something bad, I think it's when something harms someone else. When an action that you take somehow negatively affects another person. But then where I get into trouble then is what if an action that I take negatively affects one person but positively affects another person? And moreover, what if one of my actions negatively affects one person but positively affects 15 people?
Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to answer the question now. How I understand it. How I understand it.
I thought I was going to walk out of here without an answer.
As the rabbi,
Okay.
I will now delve into this. What is bad? What is bad is something that doesn't feel good. Typically, how people answer when I ask you what is bad, they say it doesn't feel good. Meaning, it doesn't feel good, therefore it must be bad. And going back to our previous conversation that we had, we delved into the idea of God a lot in episode number 1. In the world of this world, if we are living with a concept of God in our life, then everything is for the good. Everything, there is a purpose for connection, for growth, for opportunity, to be more heightened, to be more aware. And if I am constantly in touch with being aware, in touch of this is an opportunity to grow, this is an opportunity for me to be heightened, for me to be alive, then every opportunity in second by second is an opportunity for connection, for growth. Wow. It might not always feel good. Sometimes
that's discomfort. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Sometimes it feels bad, but maybe at that moment you were supposed to have a speeding ticket. Maybe at that moment you were supposed to stub your toe. Maybe at that moment you were supposed to experience some discomfort.
Yes.
But if you're really living with this concept that I am living with God and God puts opportunities in front of me right here, right now, then am I aware? Am I connected? Am I paying attention?
Wow, I didn't realize how much.
And therefore, if I'm paying attention right now to this is an opportunity for me to be growing, connecting, it might feel bad, but in the world of God, in the world of truth, it is actually all for the good. And there's a Jewish concept called Gamzu Latova.
Gamzu Latova.
Which means also this is for the good. Meaning that everything in life is really...
Oh, it's kind of like this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. This right now is for the good. Because right now, you alluded to it, it might not feel good for me right here, right now, but for that person and that person, that incident might have been a good opportunity for them.
Well, I also think, I think about this, look, you're preaching to the choir here, because initially, so I had a motorcycle for a little bit, and I won that motorcycle on a game show, which felt like the goodest thing ever that had ever happened in my life. You know, it's like, what a crazy experience, right? And then for 2 years, I rode that motorcycle. Fast forward, I got in a terrible accident, and suddenly that really good thing turned into a really bad thing where I almost died. And that was very difficult and very uncomfortable. But now, fast forward another 2 years, I think we're back to good. Because,
why?
Because that motorcycle accident, recovering from it, going through everything I had to go through, really taught me so much about who I am and what I want out of life, that in the end, if I had to do it all over again, I'd find that same lady in that same Subaru and drive right into
God forbid. God forbid. But that is what happens when we get to the other side of the adversity.
Of the bad.
Of the bad.
So on the other side.
The other side of the discomfort, the other side of
right.
the pain, the other side of the thing which was unfortunate, is that at that moment you said, why did this happen to me? And that might be another topic, but you were going through so much pain, so much hardship, so much discomfort, so much bad. And you said, how can I free myself of this pain?
But I also, right. So I think that I do believe, and I remember this, I do believe that it is a choice. I made the choice to make that accident a good thing for me.
Good.
Because I think that that's not an inherent thing. I think not all bad things become good unless you choose to see the good. And I know that sounds trite. It sounds like, oh, just find the silver lining. And there are people out there in the world who are living in so much bad that silver lining feels very difficult to see. And I think I'm speaking from a place of privilege when I say it's always there. Maybe it's not. But I'd like to think it is. I'd like to think that there is always something good that can come from anything bad.
Gamzu Latova.
And this too.
And this is also for the good.
And this is also. It's like amor fati. That's the Latin phrase, amor fati, to love your fate. Whatever happens, you have to love it.
You have to own it.
This is what happened to me. It is my fate.
It is mine, and I'm going to choose how I'm going to show up at every second of my day. Every second of your day is a choice to live. How am I going to live every second of my life? How am I going to choose to be here? Now I'm going to ask 2 more questions, because this is how I want to be.
He's on a roll.
I'm on a roll.
Look at this man.
I'm on a roll. What is the difference between pain and suffering?
suffering to me feels like it has like a timeline. Like suffering feels like about time. Pain feels like it could be momentary. Suffering feels like the endurance of pain over a period of time, or not exiting the pain.
Greg.
Why are we? Let's switch spots for a second.
Let's do this. Well, I like to ask the questions. Let's do the high fives. Yeah. So here's what it is. If I were to take my hand, God forbid I were to do this, but if I were to take my hand and put it on a electrical hot plate, a stovetop.
You said, God forbid I would do this as if it could happen to you in an accident. Like, what an accident.
Well, let's just say I happen to take this and put it on an electrical hot plate.
Yeah.
What would happen?
It would hurt.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
But what do I have in my hand?
The choice and the feeling, nerves, go, hey, don't do that. I have
pain receptors that let me know.
Don't do that.
That if I don't remove my hand from this now, I will burn my hand off.
Actually, there are people who live with a mental disorder. I'm not really sure how it's classified, where they don't have that. They don't feel the pain. So very dangerous.
So what does pain on a scientific level, in this example that I'm doing, what does a pain receptor let me know?
That you are in danger.
Good. Pain is actually a sign that is letting me know that I need to change something right now. It alludes me to something that if something doesn't happen immediately, then something, in this case, my hand will burn off. So we think that pain is actually a bad thing, but in truth, if I didn't have pain, I would burn off my hand, which would actually be worse than the pain that I'm feeling. So let's use modern day examples. People could be in painful relationships with a spouse, with a boyfriend, girlfriend, in a work
friend or in a work environment with themselves.
So what if that person is experiencing pain in that relationship? What is happening right there?
Something needs to change.
Something needs to change, which in a way, if we're living with this concept of God, is actually a blessing. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to be more connected. It's an opportunity to be more present. And if I'm looking at it that, you know what, wait a minute, God is giving me, let's say, a quote unquote, a kiss, notifying me that something is not right. If I were to be numb, too comfortable, asleep, then I would be continued to be subjugated in an unhealthy situation, which in the long run would be more harmful for me. So if I am not aware of the painful situation and I choose to not look at the signs and not do anything about it, then I suffer.
You're choosing to suffer.
I'm choosing to suffer. So suffering is a choice. It's a mindset at that point. If I am suffering, that is a choice. That means I have allowed something to go too far down the road where I have not done anything about it to change the situation. And therefore now I am in a quote unquote suffering situation.
But let's go back to that. Let's go back to the concept that you said earlier. If this too is for the good, that makes me think that a logical extension of that would be, is it then good to seek out discomfort and pain? To find, because right now I'm not in pain, physical or mental or spiritual or otherwise. All clear. Clear.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. But but then would you say that it is in my best interest to try to find the boundaries of my life, spiritually, physically, whatever, where the pain begins, so that I can see sort of what that looks like? Because if I find that pain, I could learn something from it. So would you say it's good then to seek out discomfort so that you can learn something from it?
Incredible question, Greg. And
You're like ChatGPT. Every time I ask it a question, it's like, oh, Greg, I have never heard a question so marvelous. You are the king of question asking. I've had to tell my ChatGPT to chill out a little bit.
It's just enough already.
No.
Enough
No, but here,
whenever
you want to compliment my question, I'm here for it.
So why do we have therapists? Why do we have coaches? Why do we have
so they can take
friends?
you to the edge of pain?
So they could push you to a point where you start achieving adversity, where you start getting to a place of discomfort. Because again, comfort means complacency. Comfort means numbness. Comfort means
there's no growth.
Flatline, no growth, no opportunity for growth. So we have a coach at Equinox who tells you to do 50 push-ups when you are already tired. He or she is pushing you a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, so your muscles start tearing, which creates growth.
More muscle.
So we don't pray for hard things to happen in our lives. We don't wish upon
because
ourselves.
we don't have to. Hard things are just gonna happen.
Hard things are gonna happen, and then the question is, when those hard things happen, how are you showing up with those hard things? Are you saying Gamzu Latova, God, it's coming from God. This is not I'm a victim, or
because
God
then you're
hates
choosing
me.
Suffering.
I'm then choosing suffering. But if I say, you know what, I'm going to take this as an opportunity for growth. I'm going to channel this hard moment right now and say, I can overcome this. I can become a better person. I can, I might have a problem with anger. I might have a problem with patience. I might have a problem with giving. And you know what? God will give us these opportunities and continue to put us in these situations to test us and say, you know what? Mordechai, Rabbi T, Greg, are you aware that you're in the same situation again and again and again? How are you reacting this time versus last time?
So that motorcycle accident was, in a way, a gift from God.
It was a gift from God because God knew.
And the gift was that I didn't die.
You didn't die. So
that was
God.
the gift, right?
But now, maybe.
that I had an opportunity to learn.
An opportunity to learn. And you know what? Maybe, and again, I don't know because we haven't had this conversation before, but maybe you were coasting.
I was.
Coasting through life.
I was.
Not appreciating the things that you had. And God had to say, you know what? I'm going to shake it up a little bit for you, Greg. And you can now choose to continue to go through life coasting along, not really being aware. Or sometimes God has to put us in a very hard situation, which will shake us up. And now it is our choice to say, am I going to live? Am I going to be present? Am I going to be here? Am I going to get up in the morning and not just be 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, but say, you know what is a beautiful thing that I could be appreciative of today?
Here's the thing, though, that I'm thinking about right now. So actually, a moment to shout out your brother. So for a long time, I saw that he was doing all of these, he was doing like ice plunges, cold plunges. And I remember seeing that on Instagram all the time. I hate the idea of getting into a cold bath like that. But recently, I have some friends who started a spa, and they have those there. And I thought I would try it. And I did it. And it is very painful and super uncomfortable. But as you sit in that cold bath, you feel that discomfort so viscerally. But my brain knows that it's not going to hurt me, right? That cold isn't going to hurt me. And so it becomes this battle between my body and my mind, where my body's pain receptors are going, Greg, what are you doing? You're going to get hypothermia and die. My brain goes, no, I'm not. I'm in control. I am only going to be here for 3 minutes. And when I get out, I'm going to be warm and I'm going to walk away from this experience. And that dissonance, the fight between my body saying I have to get out and my brain going, you're okay. I think that is a really powerful thing, which I now realized having done that, because I saw your brother do it a bunch. I'm like, this guy's crazy. And then I tried it. And now, man, when I get out of one of those cold plunges, I feel like I could do anything.
And by the way, how do you feel on a soul level, on a spiritual level, after you've...
More clear, more awake, more ready, but...
More alive.
More alive, right. But here's the question. So in that situation, that's a discomfort that I have placed myself in, and logically speaking, my brain knows I can push through this discomfort because I know I'm going to be fine on the other end, right? During my motorcycle accident, that wasn't as certain at certain times. There were times where I wasn't sure if I could bend this knee the way that I had in the past. There are people who face certain hardships, certain pain, where in their mind, they're not sure if they're going to overcome it. I was. And so I was able to fight through and push through to the other end. And I was able to learn from it. But that's not always the case. And what do you do in those situations where your mind isn't certain?
So this is another class or another podcast episode, but we will talk about having faith in something greater than yourself. And again, I don't want to delve deep into that question right now. That will be
a whole episode.
On
jot that down. Somebody
jot that down.
Write that down.
So we simply, it comes back down to the choice. And I'm going to ask another question because I was going to ask a question. I asked the question, what's the difference between pain and suffering? And I do think that we were able to flush that idea out a lot, that suffering is a choice. Pain is is something that's going to happen regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Pain is going to happen inevitably.
Right.
The question is, what do you choose to do in that painful situation? Do you choose to say, you know what, it's not going to kill me, and I'm going to choose to live and get through this adverse feeling, even if it was a bicycle accident that you didn't choose to be a part of, or being in a cold plunge where you did
right.
choose to be, to the varying degrees,
yeah.
But in a way, there's a choice that still needs to be made in both of those situations. But I'm going to ask another question. And it says this in Pirkei Avot, which is a Jewish text known as Ethics of the Fathers. It's basically these wisdom from our sages from 2,000 years ago.
Interpreted from the Torah.
Correct.
Okay.
Who is the wealthy person?
Ooh, I think I know this one. The wealthy person is the person who is content with what they have.
Rabbi Greg Berman. A person who is content with their lot or their portion
right.
of what they have right here, right now. So there are plenty of people in this world who have lots of physical means and assets
who are not content.
Now, why is that?
Because life is an endless hedonistic treadmill, and you're always trying to get more and more and more because it exists. So why shouldn't it be yours? It's a mindset. You choose that.
Choose it. So they can have all, because we're all aspiring to be wealthy.
Are we? Or are we aspiring for comfort?
That. And comfort equals death. Complacency. It means not being alive. We as human beings would rather put our feet up, stay 5 to 10 minutes longer in bed. But our soul tells us that we need to be alive. We want to connect to something deeper.
Comfort equals death.
Comfort equals death. And all of us want, to some degree, to be comfortable.
Yet we fear death.
Yet we fear death. But if we are not pushing, aspiring, going to that next level, in a way we are being so complacent, so comfortable, that we're not maximizing opportunities of life every second. And to some degree, we want to win the lottery. We want to win the lottery. We want to be given all this wealth, all this lavish, extravagant hedonistic, gargantuan opportunities. But what ends up happening is, and again, I don't know the actual statistics, but people, supposedly from what I know, people who have won huge amount of money
end up bankrupt
in the lottery end up worse off than they were before.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
Because there's no reason to live. There's no reason to push.
It also changes your relationships with people that you've known for a long time, because money is something that it's an energetic force that changes things for in a lot of different ways.
Correct.
And I actually read it. I read an article that was more focused on the motivation of like people in the workforce, that kind of stuff. And the article seemed to say that there is a threshold for how much money you really actually need to be good. And it's not as much as you'd think it is. Most people are only motivated by money as long as as far as they can get enough of it where they feel like they can afford what they want, go on a trip if they need to, live in a house, and not worry about creature comforts, right? So if you make enough money where you're not thinking like, man, how am I going to pay rent this month? And maybe even, and that's an extreme example, but like even a smaller example of if you have enough money where you're not like at the grocery store and you're like, I don't think I should buy that, that's extra. And you can just buy it.
The outliers on both sides are
right.
On the tangent, the cosine.
Right.
The outliers are really where you're going to be in trouble.
Exactly. And if you make so much money that if you make much beyond that amount of money, it starts to become negative again.
Detrimental.
Because now you have a high responsibility for how you're going to spend that money, manage that money. There's people who are going to be constantly trying to take that money from you.
Paranoia.
You know, how much I know folks who have a lot of money and folks who have a lot of success in Hollywood. This is Los Angeles. And they're all very paranoid that every person they meet is just trying to use them for any given thing. Right. And that's because they've attained enough success, wealth, that other people are now trying to like sort of
And do these people actually like me, or do they like my money?
Right. So it's almost like you reach, there's enough money that you can get where you start to go, wow, I live comfortably. I'm not wanting. I have what I need. I'm happy. This is, being content with your lot in life.
And again, it's a mindset.
Right.
But
you're right. You can have that mindset at any level.
At any level.
You don't need to have $100,000 or $200,000 a year job to feel content with what you have.
And so what does it really mean to be that person who is happy with their lot? Now, I want to ask deeper on that. What does it really mean to be happy and content with your lot? What does that mean?
Well, I've done a lot of reading of like some Eastern philosophy, Eckhart Tolle, the power of now and all of that kind of stuff. And Eckhart Tolle, I think in his book said something like, at any given moment, you need to ask yourself the question, what is my problem right now? In this very moment, what is my problem in this moment right now? And yeah, in my head, I'm spinning, going like, okay, I'm gonna get home, I gotta edit this episode, make sure I submit it. And there's all kinds of problems and things that I need to make sure I tackle in the future. But right now, in this moment,
so
I'm healthy, I have eaten, I have the things I need. I'm sitting with a good friend of mine in a studio recording something that I'm enjoying. I'm happy.
You just hit the nail on the head. Is that according to Judaism and Eckhart Tolle, and it sounds like they're aligned, is that to really truly be happy with your lot in life is to be living in the present. Right now.
I never realized how much of Judaism is this Zen idea of...
It started with Judaism. I don't want to...
I just didn't realize that. That's really interesting. I didn't know how much...
Thousands of years.
How much of Judaism is about like the now and this meditation of experiencing awareness and consciousness.
Choice.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that.
Exactly. So
because when you think about spirituality and you think about the like now and awareness and mindfulness, you think of like Eastern spirituality, right? You think of like Buddhism, you think of all of these religions and like spiritual frameworks where that's how they The whole thing is about how can you get closer to being completely, being able to let go of thoughts, surrendering feelings. Yeah.
And again, we are trying to have, what's our whole purpose in this world? Is to have a connection with a higher being. We did talk about this last episode, that we are all trying to attain perfection. It's difficult to attain perfection. We're never going to attain perfection because there's only one true perfect being in this world, and we believe that it's God. So if I am constantly living in the now, being aware, working on myself, trying to connect, then that is what's keeping me going. That's what's getting me out of bed. I have an opportunity to be better at this moment than I was a minute ago. I have an opportunity to be more revealed at this moment than I was a minute ago. And when I am in this moment, being present, looking at this moment as an opportunity to connect with a higher being, with something that's bigger than myself, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I have an opportunity to become more enlightened, more heightened, more connected
with the world around
me. So yes, I stubbed my toe and it hurt me and it didn't feel good. But if I can react on a more elevated state, rather than say, oh my gosh, I just stubbed my toe and what's going on and the world hates me and everybody loves me.
And then you throw your remote
and
that
I
you're
throw
holding,
my remote
right,
and I yell
breaks.
at my kids and I scream at my wife. I failed.
Right, because now that remote is broken, which leads to a new problem of now you got to buy a new remote. That's money spent.
I screamed at my kids.
You screamed at your kids. Now they're upset with you.
And now they have issues, daddy issues of trust, that they don't feel that I love them. And you know what? I'm trying to be a good person in this world. And yeah, I have a mortgage to pay. I have car payments. I have to do carpool. I have tuition. And I have all these things that God is throwing at me. And you know what ends up happening is that's all a test.
How do you react?
How do I react in that moment? Am I still going to be a mensch or a menschette? Am I going to...
More importantly, the mensch of the week.
Of the week. Shout out.
By the way, current recipient. Just this week.
For those who don't know.
I had to flex.
Back to what we were talking about. Is that if one is acknowledging that, you know what, this is just part of life, that God is going to give me opportunities at the face of adversity. And if I completely, destruct, right. and I lose my cool, I lose my patience, I lose my anger, then who am I? What am I? I'm not an evolved person. I'm not a connected person. Keep a smile on your face. Right. Keep a good outlook. Continue to be positive. Continue to be somebody who somebody else wants to hang out with.
Right.
That is the whole essence of life.
Right.
That's called being responsible. That's called being an adult. That's called being mature. That's called being human. And when I could look up to you because you still smile, have a smile on your face, even with all the responsibility that you have on your plate, I want to hang out with you.
Well, I think that's a really beautiful concept to think about. And I think that some people go, yeah, of course, that sounds great. How does one attain something like that? And I think in all of my reading of just, how, because I have spent quite a bit of time trying to learn a little bit more about meditation. I'm a very anxious person. For me, it's a tool. It's a tool because sometimes I will absolutely get wrapped up in that negativity and the discomfort and, oh my God, I got to do this and I got to do this. And me, I'm a people pleaser. I like to be reliable for people. So whenever anyone has any ask of me, I go, this is 100% priority. Nothing that I care about matters until this thing is done.
When that is just really a test for you,
Right.
Greg,
To snap out of that.
to snap out of it and become, okay, here's an opportunity, Gamzu Latova, this is also for the good,
gonna be
for
fine.
me right here, right now, to live in the present, to accept that this is part of an opportunity. This is not bad. It's not really objectively bad. It might
There's
not
nothing
feel,
that's objectively bad.
as we discussed.
Maybe murder.
Maybe murder, yes.
Unless it helps 100 people. You know, I don't know. Like that's what I'm trying to. That was the question I posed earlier. You know, there's a serial killer that's fleeing the scene of the crime. You see him, and you happen to have an opportunity to end that pursuit.
Nothing in the world of God is truly bad. Nothing.
You heard it here first, folks.
Nothing in the world of God is really bad. It might cause lots of pain. You might experience a lot of pain in this very uncomfortable situation. But in the world of God, it's not bad. The question will become, how do I grow, learn, and connect from this discomfort that I am experiencing right here, right now?
Something that I've learned along that line, whenever I feel like I'm dwelling too much in that discomfort, in that pain of whatever it is that I'm going through, whatever I've decided is the thing that's preventing me from happiness, what I've learned is a good way to do it is, like, sometimes, let's say I'm at home, I'll open the sliding glass door so I can hear the world outside, and I just sit and listen. And there's something really kind of cool that happens if you do that for a little longer than you think you should. For 1 minute, nothing happens. But if you do it for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes and just listen to the world outside, you suddenly become connected to this bigger picture. You suddenly realize, because we all walk our lives very main character energy, right? I am the main character of my movie, and everyone else is just a bit part within my film. But the moment you just take a moment to tune out of your main character energy and embrace the millions of other main characters that are all leading their lives at the same time as you in that exact same moment. You know, you're sitting there and you hear a car horn and you know that that's some main character who just got mad at another main character. There's a real beauty to how intricate and complex the world is. And I think sometimes when I get lost in my own pain and my own discomfort, I try my best to refocus on the beauty of the world around me, because it's beautiful that we're here. It's beautiful that we are breathing. It's beautiful that we're sitting here and this table is really nice. And there's a recognition of the beauty around us all the time. And that's how you can tune back into happiness and comfort when you're in discomfort. Perspective.
It really comes down to change your perspective.
Notice the beauty. Don't notice the pain.
Right.
Or that's not fair. You can't sometimes you can't not notice the pain, but don't focus on it.
We need to be aware of the pain,
right,
and not choose to allow the pain to turn into suffering.
And become the only thing that we see.
And say, okay, this is painful. It means I need to be more awake right now and more conscious right now, and say, could this opportunity that I'm being put in right now be an opportunity for more connection?
I know that like the idea of manifestation is kind of like treated like, and I'm curious what Judaism feels about manifesting. But I think that at the most fundamental kind of basic level of the idea of manifesting your best life is there are some people who live their life with glasses on that make pain more obvious. And then there's some people who live their life with glasses on that make beauty more obvious. And you can choose to switch those glasses out. You don't have to walk around life searching for pain.
But that's what ends up happening is that you see people...
Pain's easier to find, though.
Pain's easier to find. And what will happen is that people choose to run 26.2 miles That's a painful situation. But what happens is they feel more alive afterwards. Sometimes people will choose...
Because they recognize the beauty in the accomplishment.
Correct.
The pain is just a means to an end.
A means to an end.
The
and that's
accomplishment
why the
is what they
opposite
want.
of pain is not pleasure, because
No pain.
because sometimes the most pleasurable things are the most painful things as well.
Childbirth?
Childbirth. If you were... Most right-minded people would choose not to go through that, but the outcome of what happens on the other end of that painful experience
Beautiful, life-changing.
is life-changing. So I think this is a good place to
I think we covered pain.
I think we covered pain.
I don't
well.
think we ever need to talk about it again. I feel like we've really dissected it. If anyone wants to write a thesis on this, we're happy to schedule some interviews with Rabbi Greg and Rabbi Teller. Also,
he is the comedian of the group.
Also, I feel like we never acknowledged this wonderful sign that we now have. Would you take a moment? Look at this sign.
Very cool.
Show and Teller. I think that's great. Wow. Lovely.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Your show.
Teller. We got it. You know what? That'll be a lot smoother in the next episode. Yes. Thanks so much.
You say, I'm Show, I'm Teller.
I'm Show.
I'm Teller. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in.
We'll see you again. Boom.